Miss Sharon Stone is a highly respected public servant and committed advocacy community leader. She is mission driven and a proven leader. Sharon is also a certified defense financial manager with the Department of Defense with over 40 years of civilian service. Sharon demonstrates her leadership abilities through successful serving the National Coalition of 100 Black Women at the national, state, and local levels. She's also very active in her local chapter, the Prince William County chapter. Sharon is a CEO and a business owner of Claystone Coaching LLC, helping women to define what it is they desire and empower them to achieve their goals and aspirations. And Miss Sharon, when I saw your picture, I said, I know her from somewhere. And I said, where do I know her face? And when I finished reading your full bio that she sent, we go to the same church. I have seen her stand up hundreds and hundreds of times sharing our church announcements at First Mount Zion Baptist Church here in Dumfries, Virginia. So let me just say, good to see you again. And everyone, please join me in welcoming Sharon. And I'm going to pull your slides up now.
Oh, great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And Dr. Murray, thank you for this opportunity to share. I am here to talk about civic responsibility. And before we get started, I'd just like to know, just by you typing in the chat, when I say civic responsibility, what comes to your mind? What's the first word or two words that come to your mind? If you could just type them in the chat, please. I see political, I see voting. Anything else? Community involvement? Yes, yes. Anyone else? Okay, so when we talk about personal responsibility, when I talk about civic responsibility, there are some key civic responsibilities as a citizen of the United States that you voting is one that's very critical, that allows us to have a voice in the process in our country and our at the federal, state, and local levels. Paying taxes, that's a civic responsibility. That's how we resource, education and those things, the highways and all of those things that we all enjoy as citizens of our country. Serving on jury duty. I was just thinking as I was writing out my notes, I in all of my years, I have not been called to jury duty. Now they have to call me, but all of that, that's another example of civic duty and registering for the selective service. We have a volunteer armed forces in our country, and registering is another way of exercising your civic responsibility. But this afternoon, what I want to talk about is voting. Voting. And how many of you, of those who are able, voted in the last election? If you can just maybe just a yes, a thumb up, or whatever in the chat. Very good, very good, very good. And did you know that if you are going to be 18 before November the 8th, that you can pre-register so that you can vote as well? I want to just give some statistics. In 2016, only 39% of our young adults, and young adults defined by the Census Bureau, it's 18 to 29-year-old, only 39% voted in, and that's in the federal elections, and that's voting for the president. In 2020, however, there was 50% of the young adults who voted in that election, and that was a historic turnout. Been able to vote since 1972, but the 2020 election was a historic turnout, and it was still only 50% of the young adult population that was eligible, meaning that they were within that age group, but actually turned out to vote. So that was an improvement, but that there are opportunities to even increase the turnout for vote. Did you know that during the last presidential administration, which was the Trump administration, there were 234 judges that were appointed under that administration, and not one of the 234 looked like me as an African American. There was one Hispanic female, but the rest were did not look like me. So how can we change that? Is with our vote. Your vote is your civic responsibility. It is a way to change those things that we want to change within our community at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. How many of you vote in your state elections for your state representatives? Just a little yes or no. That's for the General Assembly that represents you in your respective states. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Virginia, as an example, is one of the more progressive southern states because we've been able to have a balance in our Senate and our House of Representatives. And it's very important. If you have followed any of the just a little bit of the politics over the last couple of years, we've seen at the federal level how the election of a president of one political party and a Congress of another political party can just put things at a hold. If you recall, when President Obama, his last years of office, he was called what we call a sitting or lame president, and that's because Congress had decided that they were not going to pass anything that he put forward, that they were not going to support him in any of his executive orders or the executive order he could write, but they were not going to support any bills that came through. So did you know that there are the laws that allow for the federal government to govern how we vote, how we have access to the polls? That law has been rescinded with the last administration. And so right now we have states that have what we call voter suppression. And so voter suppression is like it's anything that can be used to discourage you from going to vote. Again, Virginia is very progressive in that we have absentee ballot voting, absentee voting on Sundays, Saturday, all kinds of things. But there are states that have moved some of their ballot or their voting locations, and people have to drive miles to get to a poll. Showing additional forms of identification. All of those things are forms of voter suppression, and we have 42 of the 50 states have some sort of voter suppression in place to discourage individuals from voting. How many of you know about the Crown Act or even heard of the Crown Act? So you see my hair. For most of you online, it's probably like, okay, that's just a curly fro that she has going on. But there are states and organizations that can discriminate against hiring me because of my hairstyle. And so the Crown Act is one, it's still an act, a bill, because it has not been passed by the U.S. Senate, that prohibits the discrimination based upon my hairstyle and hair texture. Now, I was born with those things, so the style may be different, but the texture of my hair, unless I just perm it all the time or straighten it, it is what it is. So in order for that to become a law, again, for us not to be discriminated, it has to be passed by the U.S. Senate. Why am I sharing these things with you? Just to stress the importance of voting. Voting in your local government is where you get your county board of supervisors, your mayors, your school superintendents. Your state is where you get your state legislators that determine how the federal funding that's been approved is allocated, how teachers are paid in your state and all of those types of things. Um, Even how you have access to voting within the state through voter suppression or not, ballots and all of that. That's at the state level. And at the federal level, if you don't vote for your congressman, then the president's hands can be tied. So it's important to vote at every level in every election. I'm of the mindset that if Snoopy is an election for the dog of the community, then and he's going to have a role and a say in my livelihood, then I'm going to vote for that position. And so on the slide here, do I have time to I want to share with you the link. This the link to the vote.org. This is a one-stop place that you can check your registration if you're not sure. If you're in college, away from home, you can go on your campus and do absentee ballot voting. If you're in high school and you're going to be 18 before November, you can check and even pledge to register. So you'll get a notification to register when you're able to so that you can vote in the upcoming election. This is just a one-stop place that you can, any question that you have about voting, encourage your friends, family, all to register to vote. And then when it's time to vote, actually get out and vote, exercise your vote. In the interest of time, I think Dr. Mary, I'm almost up with my time, but there is a video that I have here about My Vote Will Count. It's a 3-minute video that just talks about the balance of powers and civic responsibility. And sometimes we get frustrated with the government and say that the man or the system isn't working for us, when actually we need to look at what and how we are showing up and do it and exercising our civic responsibility to vote. And that is what that slide has here. So with that, Dr. Murray, you let me know with my time because I don't want to go over. I know we have a packed schedule.
Yes, this has been great. I know. I want to give an opportunity to see if there are any questions from the audience. I have one that hopefully may help. Can students vote while they're in college, even if they don't do kind of an absentee ballot or vote early at home? Do college campuses allow voting?
Yes. So on the campus, you should be able to go and vote for your respective state. You have to know what the state guidelines are, but the campus should have a voting place that you can vote. And that's why if you go to this link, Virginia may be a little different than Georgia, is a lot different than Georgia, and what it allows than North Carolina, than Florida. So it's important. That's why I gave you that link so that you can see. But on your campus, you should be able to vote. If you're in Virginia and you're a resident of North Carolina, you should be able to vote from your campus and cast that vote. Okay.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing Miss Sharon say, y'all, is don't wait until November 8th to figure out how you can vote and where you can vote. What she's saying is start in August and September. And
Yes.
if you're eligible to vote in this November 8th election, when you hit campus, if you're going back to school soon or you're currently at school or you're planning to go next year, understand what it looks like and do your research, really, and make sure you know what you need to do and where to do it at.
Yes. Thank you. Vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, I was more concerned about when you had mentioned the Crown Act about like the discrimination against, well, basically African American hair. I was wondering, like, we have the 14th Amendment. Isn't that technically going against the Constitution?
So You're very smart. Yes, yes, it is. It's always subject to the interpretation of the Constitution, and that's why the bill has been introduced. Because although the 14th Amendment says that we have a right to freedom, that the texture, there has been a number of cases of discrimination, federal, state, local, where people have not been hired because of the look and the texture and the style of their hair. And basically, as long as you're clean and presentable, you should be and qualified for the job. You should have um, the same option and the same authority to and recognition for applying for a job or consideration as the next person. Often people that look different from people are often thought of as inferior or less than. And so that's the law that bill is to protect. There are 13 states that have made, at the state level, have made the Crown Act a law. Virginia is one of those, so that they cannot discriminate, knowingly discriminate against your hair or the texture of your hair. But there are 50 states, not 13, so it's something to think about.
Yeah, I definitely understand that because I know like businesses, they have like the right to have grooming policies, but at that point in time, it's a little bit of a stretch when it comes down to my natural texture of my hair. But that was my concern.
I agree with you wholehearted, Alexa. But that's why it has been an issue because at first there were issues with braids, and then with twists, and and then it was like braiding. You need to have certified braiders and all of these things, which we've just grown up with someone in the family or in the neighborhood, doing that with our hair. And then in the discrimination in the workplace, just in being hired. And so those are, but the Crown Act, you can Google it and get the rest of the information and see the stories and the instances of discrimination that have occurred across the country around hair and hair texture. But you bring up a very valid point. But in order to understand and make that case, it would take an attorney and a judge understanding that the 14th Amendment was not just for straight hair, So,
mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Well, fingers crossed, and we'll all be paying attention to the Crown Act as it continues to work its way through the Senate and ultimately to the president's desk to become a law. So we want to give another round of applause to Miss Sharon Stone. Let's give her some reactions and some love, y'all. I think it's very important, and we're going to make this a long-standing part of our summits here moving forward, and we do these every August. So Ms. Stone will collaborate offline, but we will see you back because your vote matters. Many young people, just from the stats that she gave us, don't realize how valuable and important they are. People who are like twice, 3 times your age are going to make decisions that affect your life. And I hate to say it this way, but they will have been retired and maybe deceased. And if things they were going to set in motion that are going to affect your livelihood. So if no other reason, get involved. And like I tell my sons who are in college right now, either you part of the solution or you part of the problem. And so to be part of the solution, start thinking about running for local, state, federal positions and political positions, because we need strong-minded, solid, objective, fair, and balanced people in positions. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.